as well as our first guest. He is Dr. Berhan Ahmed. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the African Australian Multicultural Youth and Employment Services, or AAMEYS as they call it. Dr. Berhan will tell us a bit more about that. He was a refugee at the age of 14 in Sudan, arrived in Australia at 23, again a refugee, but it hasn't held him back. In fact, in 2009, in recognition of the tremendous work he made and has offered to the community, he was named Victorian Australian of the Year. Thank you very much. He's the former co-chair of the expert panel group of the Australian Africa University Network, founder and ex-chair of the African think tank, and currently, I'd like to mention, the adjunct professor at the University of Melbourne in Australia. So he just keeps notching up all these awards. Dr. Berhan, thank you for joining. Welcome to Ramadan Conversations.
Pleasure, George. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to join you in this Ramadan conversation. It's sharing such information and such enlightening about all the cultures and all the differences that we have that brings us together as one society, as a color of every nation to one sort of nation that makes a group of diversity with beauty and with flavors. And Africa brings, as you well know, special flavors to Australia, from music to arts to dancing, and more to come in excellence of sport and many others as well. So there is more opportunity in front of us than what we already seen. Thank you.
Ruveyda.
It's great to have you, Berhan. I'm personally pleased to have met you as well. Your story is amazing. It's fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about, being a refugee at the age of 14, coming here? What happened, and how was that journey like?
Well, look, the time I was a refugee, to be honest with you, it was a different world, and I was lucky at the time, even though it is to be refugee is one of the worst, to go into unknown territories and to adopt to a system that you don't know, neither the culture, nor the language, nor the society. It is absolutely like walking to a jungle. But survival is something that is instinct in biology. So that has pushed me and many young people like me to adapt to an environment at that age with no choice but to force ourselves to be part of society we never knew. And thanks to UNHCR at the time offered me school as a young boy, and I attended refugee school in Sudan, in Kassala. And that has given me the impetus of journey to see the world that there is opportunity. And I took that opportunity, and I never gave up to look backward what I lost. If I would have to live in what I lost, I would not stand any time. So that start of my journey has taught me that what I lost was not the issue for me. What is in front of me was the question that I need to step, and that has given me a scholarship to go to Egypt to study university. And I did that university, and I finished that. UNHCR also gave me an opportunity to go to either US, Canada, or and what. At the time was the wrong choice to come to Australia, but I chose to come because of my background. I finished agricultural science, and I thought Australia has better agricultural sort of opportunities, and I stepped in to come to Australia. So that was something, I never had a language to speak in Sudan. I never spoke Arabic. But when I landed there, I happened to go to a shop and to buy something when you don't have the language, it is bad. Always, necessity is a mother of invention. And that was the key of my journey that has given me when I went to Sudan, then that has brought a culture into me when I came to Australia to start to first ask, how can I learn this and how can I join the society? I made as my journey coming, I feared to ask a question to people where to start. And I jumped in a tram on my second day of my arrival as a refugee in Melbourne. I was taking the tram and I saw a commanding and taking tickets. And I said, how did you get this job? He said, he told me where he got the job and how he applied. And I just took that and I went to the place and I asked them, I would like to apply. In fact, they were like a lady in the front desk. She said to me, you don't speak English well. How can we have you? I said, don't worry, I know how to speak. I just need, give me the test and I will do my best. And she gave me the form and I filled the form. And they asked, how do you like to be conductor? Have you got any experience? I said, yes, I do. Where's your experience? I said, in Sudan, I was working as a conductor. In fact, if they would have at the time Sudan, I would have lost the job. But because I was confident in how I answered the question, they just moved to the next question and they said to me, well, look, if you got a lot of people, but you got a drunken man wanting, he don't want to pay. What do you do? I said, well, that's easy. Leave the one pay, get the 99 people standing to pay, and make more people than wait, lose $1. They said, that's smart, and they got me into the job. So that job for me was the start of my journey in Australia. I never stopped from that job, going to different jobs until I got to university as a PhD student, and then I worked as a lecturer, and I became a senior, and on and on and on, and until now I became the adjunct professor. So my journey of refugee never stopped.
Dr. Berhan, can I just say it's an extraordinary journey that you've been on, and I know very well from my own family's experience just how difficult it was in those very early days, especially for my father, who, like you, had no English or very little English, and even asking for food to buy a sandwich was a very complicated thing to do. And of course, you as a man, especially at that time, you don't want to embarrass yourself, but you do the best you can. And to hear you telling your story about on a tram, finding a way to communicate with the tram collector there, or the conductor, that's a fantastic story. And then going on and getting a job when if they had internet, they would have found Dan didn't have too many trams or too many conductors. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, let's talk about something else. You've been in community engagement from that time you were a conductor. Can you tell us more, though, about AAMEYS and the work that it does, a little bit about its history and some of the successes to date, and give us an idea of some of the challenges that still remain for AAMEYS?
Well, George, thank you very much. That is an important question that I always work on. And well, look, the organization started. I have been working as a chair of African think tank and a founder. I've been advocating and writing in the media and talking on TVs and radios. Talking on the radios and advocating was one journey, but the effect was too little. And then these changes were not reaching the real people that need to change, particularly young people, education, particularly young people graduating university or not able to get to university. This was a challenge that I saw. And then I said, so I need to change the strategy. And the strategy was to work on the ground, to understand out to organizations such as schools and deal on the daily crisis. We have been dealing with young boys drop out of schools. We help young boys and girls, refugees in the Flemington Housing Commission, in Sunshine, and many other places. We support homework and many others. But also on the side, one of the initiatives that recently is develop work in the mainstream system. One of the areas that I took was Victoria Police. We have a problem as a community working with Victoria Police. Our kids are becoming sort of failed with, as you know, in this country. Once you record yourself with police, the rest of your life is marked. And some of our boys fail with that. You can name it. There is racism, there is failed boys, and there's many other boys in their journey. So I stepped with Victoria Police, and I worked with Victoria Police to change the journey. So I took an initiative with the state government and the police to recruit African Victoria Police. So we developed a special course with Victoria University to fill the gap of what's needed for the job what we have. There's a cultural gap, and I argue with police now. If someone comes from UK today can join Victoria Police tomorrow, but someone of an African or cultural background here, it's hard for him or her to join Victoria Police. So it is not an intellectual rigor, but it is a cultural rigor. So they accept my argument, and now we're in the process of getting over a handful of young Africans, boys and girls, joining Victoria Police. And our recruitment for this year and next year is up to 30 boys and girls to recruit to Victoria. So this is one of the journeys. And there are many other journeys that we've done with Melbourne University as partner, Monash University as partner, to mentor young boys from schools and to help them to work in support of giving them a dream to think big, to look to the future. Because when you don't have network, it's always a challenge. So from the right institutions, so what we did with Melbourne University and Monash now is the sport for grade 8, 9, 10, 11 to be connected with the university in the sports center, to give them free membership at the sports center. And this sport for athletics and others for the kids to join, and to bring the academic mentors to the sport club to link with the young boys. Currently, we have a boy who's joined through this process into the Melbourne University art, the Faculty of Art. So the journey looks into diverse. Before this, back in 2007, 8, 9, since the initiation of AAMEYS to start, we worked with the former finance minister, Lindsay Tanner, to reach out to Australia Post to recruit refugees of African background. With Crown Casinos, we try to create understanding and to give chance for the refugees, and because it was not easy, because no network. So juvenile justice and with the Department of Education, the gap of some African teachers or multicultural teachers coming with qualification in this country to join and help with the different cultures. We need to develop a course, and we are working on it with Victoria University and others to develop the gap to fill with some educational requirements and to help current graduate or the previous teachers that have got a problem to fit into the system. So AAMEYS role, working in a way, filling the gap. And what generally Africans have that are not getting them into the process of filling into the mainstream employment. So this has been part of the journey, but also we got mentoring processing. We go to what you call one of the prisons now in Deer Park is the Ravenhall Correction Center. We go there, we celebrate Africa Day, we encourage them, and then when they come to are in process, we help them with employment. We link them to community. We try to divert their journey into continued what you call civism in prison, that they need to move into life. So this has brought a number of young boys to move into a better jobs now, which we've seen some are in a good jobs. We're succeeding with at least in the last year, we had about 8 that have moved from where they were to what they are now doing. So the challenge is, and the challenge we have is now, as before COVID, as you know, was problem without people to get into employment is hard. One of the problems, like last year, I communicated with Herald Sun. As you know, Herald Sun always they put an article on their and whatever. So the chief of the Herald Sun, and I spoke to him to give opportunity to our new graduate in journalism, and to give them a chance to write articles so that their environment understand. It's not the color of the person. It's the person, if you give them the opportunity, they can prosper and thrive in giving them other side of the equation. So
Berhan, if I can interrupt there. Time is going to challenge us a little bit. I just want to take the opportunity. I want to ask one question, and I apologize to Ruveyda. The question is, are attitudes changing? Can you see that we are, the work that you've done, are we changing attitudes? And then I wanted to wrap it up. I want to take it back. I want you to reminisce for us what it must have been like as a young boy growing up in Sudan during a Ramadan. All right. So first question is are we getting some measure of success? Are we changing attitudes?
Without doubt, George, I can tell you from back in the 2000, early 2000, when we have the Nobel Park and the Minister for Emission. We need to kick Africans out. Australia has changed for the better. There's a big altitude change and the big sort of interaction. To be honest with you, I feel very proud being Australian when I see the changes that we are. I get people from mainstream coming forward and saying, Berhan, where can we help? How can we support such young boys? What is needed, or what can we put in terms of mentoring? Can we add our connection? And then within the Victoria Police, I get young policemen coming forward and saying, Berhan, we know there are bad people, but we are not all bad. We're here. And they take young boys and take them to the best, and they to put confidence in their life. So yes, there is a big change. We have come long way.
Good.
As a nation, moving to the better, and we're getting a better every time, better and better to our journey. Going back to my journey as a young refugee, to put my reminiscence of my childhood. Well, what reminds me of my childhood, Ramadan, was always we wait, instead of wait a light to turn when the time to break fast starts. So we wait for that light from about 4:30 to about 5 o'clock, sitting and waiting when is that light going to turn on. There was no microphones to reach us because there was limited resources, and also the night celebration. Once we had the breaking was the community spirit was live. It just makes you waiting for Ramadan, because that night life becomes a new journey of life. So every child looks Ramadan from that, after the breaking fast, especially in Muslim country, what you see is after breaking fast, night becomes a day. Everyone goes out, socializes, and everyone interacts if the day changes into night. And that shows the spirit of generosity, the spirit of friendship, camaraderie, help each other, reaching out. And as refugee, one thing I remember in Sudan, you don't ask where to eat. They put it on the street. They come with their break, fasting break, and they put it on the street. You wait, which one is the best one? You wait the light to come close there, and then you wait and you join those people. So it was the easiest. Generosity was beyond imagination.
Berhan, you've given us some rich images to savor, especially as we now almost end this month of Ramadan. Eid is coming up, of course, on Sunday. We wish you a very joyous last week. And it also reminds me that even though you're a young refugee, you did always manage to find your way to the food. So may it long continue. Thank you, Berhan. Thank you for joining us on Ramadan Conversations. Bye-bye.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Ruveyda. It's a great pleasure talking to you, boss.